All right, so let's talk about Kanye West again. He just did an interview on Alex Jones where he said a lot of stuff. To me, it's pretty clear that he's off his meds or not on good meds, or something's going on with him. But we'll try to dig into as much of it as we can. I think it's just further evidence that we're in some offshoot timeline, because you could not have predicted this even just a year ago. I think he basically got on Alex Jones and said he likes Nazis while wearing a mask. Have you watched it?
Yeah, I just seen parts of it.
Right. So some certain clips, Alex Jones is trying to wrangle him into more reasonable positions, which is a odd turnabout for him. And Kanye says things like, "No, I like Nazis," or he sees good things about Hitler. He talks about how Hitler built highways and all the good things that he did.
Did he say invented highways or just
He said
built
invented
highways?
highways, which is obviously
Okay.
not true. He's probably referring to the fact that the Autobahn exists, right? He did build that, or that was built during his tenure. But I don't think it's. Is it fair to say that even Germans invented highways? Maybe Germans invented it.
I have no idea.
Later on in the interview, he even goes on to say things like, "I love everybody. I love Hitler and Stalin and Mao." And personally, I will agree that it's fair to say that some Nazis have added some value to the world, but it's totally outweighed by all the evil things they've done. You're not factually correct in saying that they have added zero value, though. I mean, the NASA program, the U.S. space program probably wouldn't be where it is today if not for Nazis they brought over after World War II. That's just a reality, unpleasant as it may be.
Do you think there's someone influencing him to say all this stuff, or is
Yes,
this
I think.
is this like
Well,
independent research he's doing,
at
or
the
did
end of
he,
the day, no, it's not independent.
did he
He will
join
do what,
some
yeah.
cult or small group where there are people that have these beliefs and he's just getting them by osmosis?
Well, he did. Probably it seems like that's exactly what he's done. He's joined Nick Fuentes' group. They call themselves Groypers. And if you're not familiar with who Nick Fuentes is, he's one of the few people where the label alt-right is an apt label. He's fairly extreme. He is to the right of mainstream, all mainstream conservative groups. He hates people like Ben Shapiro. He hates Turning Point USA. And they hate him because he has very extreme views. He's the type. It's just fair to say that based on his behavior, it's fair to call him a racist. He keeps talking about what the Jews do, and he talks about them as a group and as if there's some sort of cabal running things. He's used the N word multiple times, so it's not like he very often talks about being against all kinds of immigration because it's replacing white people, and he wants us to remain a white country. That sounds pretty racist, no matter how you cut it, right? So he is one of those people, and I think he's attempted to couch these beliefs in ways that are he can sort of disavow racism. He can try, but I think anybody with a brain has assessed him as a white nationalist. That's a fair term when you're talking about him. And
So,
Kanye West
so
just wrote that he is a proud Groyper, and that means he's with Nick. He's sitting on a panel with Nick. He's riding in planes with Nick. They're talking to each other. They're exchanging ideas, and Kanye has absorbed a lot of these ideas. So yes, he has absorbed a lot of ideas from, just call it a white nationalist. Unfortunately,
do,
and he's like, not in a good headspace, so he might be more susceptible to it.
do you think Fuentes is more of a racist than most people are, or and he's just, or
Yes.
is he just saying things out loud that normal people think but
No, I
don't
think
dare
he's.
say out
I
loud?
think. I think he's more of a racist than most people. I think everybody has some ability to be racist because that's just. I think it's part of the human condition to recognize patterns and to draw conclusions from patterns that you see in your life, and that is a lot of what Kanye or Ye. That's what he's doing. But very few of them will go so far as to say things like they don't want this country to get less white. I don't think that even some people who have, tinges of racist ideology or beliefs. I don't think they go that far because if you say something like that, you're just full out admitting, hey, I'm a racist, and it is what it is. This is what I think, right? Why would you? I think it's fair to say things like, well, I don't want people to enter the country who don't share our values because that could damage the culture of the nation. Sure, that's a fair argument. But when people say things like, well, I just don't want any people who are not white because that will damage the nation. Well, why exactly? Because they don't share our values. Like, really? That could be so on average, but just to say, okay, so nobody non-white gets to come in.
So why would a black person like Kanye want to associate with him?
I think that when you're bipolar, when you're having a manic episode, when you have the sort of personality that Kanye has, he wants to be the iconoclast. He wants to be the rebel. He wants to be the alternative thinker, right? And right now, the people who are the most rebellious, the people who are most alternative, are people like Nick Fuentes,
Mm.
because everybody's trying to cancel them. Everybody says what they think, the things they say, the things they think are dangerous, and that appeals to a personality like Kanye. He views himself as that rebel, as that iconoclast, somebody who's going to die on the cross, right? That's the way he views himself. He doesn't view himself as one of the the boring majority that just obeys. That's definitely not his personality. So this narrative fits his personality perfectly, and that's why he's drawn to it. It's less important that that Nick is a white nationalist, and more important that Nick offers this iconoclastic, asymmetrical thinking angle that Kanye can sort of adopt as part of his own. He probably feels power when he says something and everybody tries to cancel him and everybody says you're wrong. He draws power from that. Just like back when he said, George Bush doesn't care about black people, or when he got on the stage and harassed Taylor Swift or whatever. A lot of people said he was a bad person. They said all these negative things about him, but he's somehow persisted and he just doubled down, and that shows what type of personality he has. And this just dovetails perfectly with that. He's on Alex Jones wearing a weird black mask, saying things that are more full-blown anti-Semitic than he used. Like, at first he sort of hinted it, but now he's really just saying it. He's really just saying it. And I did kind of see this coming. I was hoping that he would stay on good meds and that he would have more self-control than to say this stuff out loud. But apparently he got off of them and he's now saying it out loud. You can't, well, you can, but when you say things like, Rahm Emanuel sitting next to Obama and Jared Kushner sitting next to Trump, well, what does that mean? Well, obviously he's implying that Jews controlled the last two presidents, or the two of the last three presidents, right? That's what he is implying. And when he says the Zionists are doing that, well, you're just talking, you are talking about Jews as a group, and you are saying that the bad things they do have to do with the fact that they're Jewish. And this is stuff that Nick Fuentes says often. And he says it even in this interview with Alex Jones. He talks about, well, if you go to, I think the book is like the Talmud or something. He's talking about how Jews view the Gentiles and how they view them as animals, and how the Zionists view themselves as the rightful God chosen rulers of the world and things like that. That's really sort of from the playbook of people who think that the Jews are just in general bad people, and they are an organized cabal trying to do these things. So he's totally on board with it. Unfortunate, because Kanye, or Ye, and I don't think it's not impossible for him to come back from this. He's come back from other things, but he is a valuable person to the culture war. But he's not going to be valuable if he goes so far into the extreme. Like, if he's hanging out in Nick Fuentes land, he's not going to be valuable. It's going to be a very marginal position. He needed to stay in the sort of like Candace Owens, Ben Shapiro zone of it. Because over to the extreme, he's not useful. He's just going to be marginalized and dismissed. But maybe that's fair, because these are, I think these are maybe his true beliefs, right? Or more charitably, he's having a manic episode. He has a mental illness, and he's fallen under the spell of people like Fuentes, who spin a good tale and spin a good story that really appeals to core parts of Kanye's personality. His need to be on the outside, his need to be a rebel. And that that's what you're seeing right now. But in either case, I fully support. This is why free speech is important. You need to see what people are thinking, and then you can judge for yourself. If you want to conclude that he's an anti-Semite and he should no longer be listen, you should no longer listen to him. That's fair. It wouldn't be an unfair conclusion, and now you have all the information necessary to make that call. In a world
How
where he's a little bit more circumspect, you may not have had all that information.
Why do you think he's having a manic episode now, like versus when he was on Tucker and, he seemed to be lucid? Like,
I think it's a simple matter of medication.
no, but what is it just because he's saying more extreme things now that you think he's having a manic episode? Or is
Also
there
the
something
way,
else?
also the way he's talking about things, he just seems unhinged. He seems a little more manic right now. So it's based on that. It's not just that he's saying more extreme things. That wouldn't be a fair assessment.
Mm-hmm.
He just seems that he's off his meds or on different ones, or it's
'Cause,
unfortunate.
I definitely, I criticize JCal for playing, armchair psychologist on All In Pod when he just dismisses Kanye's, he needs to get on his meds or whatever. So
Well, I disagree with him there too, because he said it at a time where he seemed like he was on his med. Kanye is fully under the how do you say this? He's under the charms of Nick Fuentes. He's using the same kind of language, and it may be even unfair. It may be wrong for us to be this charitable to Kanye. Maybe because we like him, that we just think, oh, he was wooed by this ideology from Nick Fuentes, who spun a nice tale that really appeals to Kanye's personality. And that's why he's repeating these anti-Semitic tropes and things like that. It also could be the case that Kanye he is an anti-Semite and he's attracted to people like Nick Fuentes because he hears things that match his worldview. And I can't say that I agree with his worldview. I agree with a lot of things that Kanye has said in the past, and I fully support his ability to say them out loud. But blaming the Jews for everything is very much, it comes from the same exact place that same exact place where people blame, the whites for everything. It's white supremacy. It's this and that. That often comes from people who have had bad experiences with white people, who in their personal lives, white people have, done them wrong. It feels like they've been oppressing them, but it's not all white people, obviously. It's just certain people you've encountered in your personal life. But our natural inclination as human beings is to sort of generalize from the specific to the general, right? So if I've experienced a bunch of white people who've done me wrong in my life, I will then make conclusions about all white people. That's kind of a natural thing, but it's not an accurate sentiment either. It's not a correct way of thinking about things. And a lot of people who have this victim mentality about what, white supremacy is and how it's behind every single thing and it's every single reason why I don't succeed in my own life, it comes from that sort of place. Kanye has sort of done the same thing, except with the Jews. And also from a different scale, because obviously the people who oppress him are, rich businessmen in the entertainment industry who all mostly happen to be Jewish, and him, who is also a rich person. But it feels like they're oppressing me. They're doing stuff, bad things to me and other artists. So now he's generalizing. He's saying, well, there's tons of Jewish people who have done bad things to me, and now I'm generalizing broadly up to most Jews. So when comes along a guy like Nick Fuentes who says things about, Zionism and this, it all sounds pretty appealing because it makes sense based on what you've seen in your own life, right? But it's the same sort of victim mentality that I disagree with when people think that white supremacy is behind everything. White supremacy is not behind everything. I'll take your word for it that a bunch of white people have done bad things to you, but, you may have even experienced racism at their hands, but that doesn't mean that white supremacy is at the root of everything and that they're all together or complicit. That conclusion I can't agree with. And so it's the same sort of thing. And he's fallen under that spell. It's attractive. I can see why it's attractive given his personal experience.
Do you think this is actually, like going forward, how relevant is this? I mean, Kanye is running for president, but do you think that's actually,
Well,
does that
it's
matter?
probably pretty irrelevant. I mean, he's painted himself into a corner of not being terribly relevant. I don't know how many people would be behind him at this point. And, 2024 is 2 years away. Who knows?
At this rate, who
Who knows
knows?
what other things he will say at this rate, right? And
He
people,
might be
people,
dead or
yeah,
something in
people are
2024 at
trying
this
to
rate.
like Alex Jones was even trying to help him. He was trying to say things like, "Well, you don't really like Nazis, do you? You just like maybe the way their uniforms look." And then I'm paraphrasing here, but Ye just
Yeah.
basically said, "No, no, I like them." Oh, okay.
Mhm.
When Alex Jones is trying to give you an out, maybe you've gone a little bit too far.